How's it going, everybody? This is Radishhead and welcome back to another episode of Upland Analysis. I am coming to you today with, firstly, very exciting news. The Buenos Aires city release is tomorrow, so cutting it pretty close with the collection predictions, but they are here. Also, you may have noticed I am coming to you from a new camera. The angle is a bit different because I've also got a new monitor, so apparently it's true to life image quality, and I don't know if my audience is quite ready to see me in such high resolution. I know the lighting still has to be improved a little bit, but step by step I'm absolutely getting there in increasing the production value for you guys. Of course, any upgrades to the channel is in big part thanks to my channel members. If you're interested in joining the channel and helping me out, click the join button below the video. But as always, I'd like to thank my executive level channel members at the start of the video: Bad Frog, Monopoly Mike and Matsuda R. I also want to give a shout out to the sponsor for this video, which is the Bored Uplander Club and Smart Owl Coffee. The Bored Uplander Club, you may have heard of it. It is a metaverse lifestyle club that really does help to bridge that gap between the virtual world and the real world by helping real world businesses and uplanders alike to transition their products, services and NFT projects into the metaverse with an e-commerce style marketplace. And the first brand that the Bored Uplander Club wants to introduce to Upland is Smart Owl Coffee. Now, this product, they use peer-reviewed studies as guides to formulate unique and beneficial coffee blends. They taste great and they promise to maximize your coffee experience. I'm a huge coffee drinker myself. I've been promised they're going to ship out some Smart Owl coffee to me, so I'm looking forward to giving that a try. And you can start this kind of metaventure real world blending experience by visiting their future metaventure location in Upland in Norwood Park, Chicago, 6029 North Nina Avenue. I'll have the link to that in the description in the comments, and use code BUCK100 for a 20% discount on the website. And stay tuned for a special Upland asset sale in-game for some great Smart Owl coffee. Spark up your mornings with Smart Owl coffee. And of course, the Bored Uplander Club bringing you the metaverse today. So thank you very much to Bored Uplander Club and Smart Owl Coffee for sponsoring this video. On to the city release information. Buenos Aires is releasing tomorrow, Thursday the 19th of January at 9 AM Pacific time. However, it is only 17,500 properties across 6 neighborhoods. You can see it in this picture that I'm looking at right now, which means I believe all of this is going to sell out very quickly. So you may not be able to be too picky about what you end up minting. However, if you are lucky enough to be floating along some of the places I described in this video, you'll know to maybe flip them for a higher price. Or if you're speculating on the secondary market and you're thinking about what to buy for the maximum collection potential, this is what this video is all about. But of course, I do have to give my usual disclaimer that I am not connected to the Upland team in any way. I have no idea what these collections are actually going to be. I just use my previous experience of the kinds of neighborhoods and streets that Upland often like to include as part of their collection reveals, and therefore giving the areas that I'm personally going to be targeting the most. And with that, let me pop up the Upland map. And here we go. So this is the city of Buenos Aires, and just for information, I guess at the start, there's 6 neighborhoods being released. But if you're an FSA player, if you're worth less than 100,000 UPIX, I'd immediately recommend going to this Núñez up here, because this is going to be 100% FSA properties. You're not going to have as much competition for those. Having said that, I'd be very surprised if this neighborhood was a collection. That just seems very... There's no way that Upland would have a neighborhood that's only available to a certain group of players be a collection. That doesn't sound right to me. Now, only 5 neighborhoods down here, obviously, but it just so happens that they are some of the more in demand, some of the more iconic neighborhoods within the city. So I do think I think there's going to be at least one, probably two of these neighborhoods that are going to end up being a collection. Running through the ones that I think have the greatest chance, we have this one up in the north here called Recoletta. This is very much a high-end, upscale, historic neighborhood in the city. It's got so many iconic cultural spaces. It's got historic monuments, the Fine Arts Museum, the National Library, the Recoletta Cemetery, which is probably the most famous landmark in the area, and it has a strong tango history as well. So I think there's a real possibility that Uplands does some sort of tango ultra rare. They did a samba one in Rio. It just seems like the kind of thing they'd do. So if you do mint property in Recoletta, make sure that you check exactly what it is, and if it has some sort of tango history to it, I'd probably hold on to it just in case it turns out to be an ultra rare. You don't want the regret of selling that too cheap. Scrolling down a little bit, we have this very small neighborhood here, San Telmo. This one is going to go so quick. It is the oldest neighborhood of Buenos Aires. It's suitably historic as well. It's got lots of narrow cobblestone streets, old school colonial style buildings, lots of art galleries, museums. It really is one of the cultural hubs of Buenos Aires. Cafes, tango parlors, boutique shops. It's got it all. So I think San Telmo very possibly could be a limited or an exclusive collection. And just next door to it, you got Boca. It's the most colourful neighbourhood in the city because it has this sort of area, quite touristy near the coast especially, that's got so many colourful houses. It's home to probably the most famous street in Buenos Aires, Caminito Street, which I'll go into more detail in my streets section. But certainly the area that is built up for tourists is among the most popular in the city. It's a great collection contender, very iconic. And I do want to give a shout out to this other one over here, Puerto Madero. It's a CBD district. Uplands do like to have kind of the city centre, you know, where all the business happens, being a collection as well. This is a regenerated dockyard that's now just completely full of very high-end apartments, hotels, restaurants, you know, skyscrapers, all of that stuff. To be honest, it has so few properties that I'm not even convinced that it's going to be a collection. It might be like too exclusive. It depends how many properties actually drop in here. But whether it's a collection or not, I think anybody minting in here is going to be very, very happy indeed. They're either going to flip for a crazy profit before the collections come out, or, to be honest, even after the collections come out, I'd be surprised if the floor was that low in this neighborhood because it's so exclusive in the city in real life, and so much of it is right next to the water as well. So I'm a big fan of Puerto Madero, even though I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be a collection or not. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to some areas that are not releasing in this initial release, but when we go into like future releases, these are some of the areas that we want to be thinking about. You've got this big area here between Recoletta and Núñez. Most of that is made up of a huge neighborhood called Palermo. It's got so many of the famous landmarks, streets, all of that. It's quite a big neighborhood, so it might just be a standard collection, but that does mean that cheap mints could be good there when that neighborhood does eventually open up. And to the south of Retiro, down here, sort of between Retiro, Puerto Madero and Sao Telmo, this area down here is actually home to two neighborhoods. You've got San Nicolas and Montserrat. Both of these are kind of part of this central business district. It's got a bunch of the most iconic streets in it, which I'll go into more detail in a minute. So I think that both of these neighborhoods in this sort of gap down here, they're going to be super prime targets when they do eventually release. It's almost time for me to start talking about the streets that I believe could be a collection in the city release of Buenos Aires. I wanted to say that if you're enjoying this video and you found it useful so far, please click the like button, and if you're not subscribed already, I'd love it if you did that too. It really, really does help my channel out, and you know that there's probably going to be a giveaway or something once we hit 2,000 subscribers, so please go ahead, click that button, see if we can get to 2,000 subscribers by the time the next city release comes out. Right, it's time to talk about streets, and the first one is so massive you just cannot miss it even from the sky. I'm talking about I don't speak Spanish, I'm afraid. I'm just going to call it 9 de Julio Avenue. You're just zooming in on this bit, and yeah, you just can't miss it. It's this huge yellow highway here. It does go through the neighborhood of Retiro. It's the widest avenue in the world, and it was named to honor Argentina's Independence Day on July the 9th, which is why it's 9 de Julio. It's actually so big that it takes up to 2-3 minutes to cross it on foot when accounting for traffic lights, so that's pretty absurd. It's obviously kind of the main critical corridor through the city, and therefore home to lots of key properties, lots of expensive places to live. It is unusual for Upland to have a collection street be one of these yellow highways, but this one is so integral to like the history and just the way that Buenos Aires is structured as a city. If it was going to happen to any of these highways, I think it would be this one. If I zoom out and head a little bit south, we're going to go into the neighborhood of Boca, and you see this bit of the water here where it's kind of intruding inwards. If you just zoom in here, this bit along the waterfront is the real touristy stuff, but especially this block around here is what people call the Caminito. It's sort of a street museum that goes diagonally through here. I can't tell how Upland is going to represent this. I don't think there's going to be any Caminito street addresses because it looks like it's already surrounded by other streets. But it is probably the most famous area of the city. I'd compare it a bit to Fremont Street in Las Vegas, where it's sort of a small experience for tourists that's just filled with lots of stuff. It's got all of the colourful houses that you see on all of the photos. So it could be that just all of these properties in this block could be considered part of that street museum. If so, definitely a good contender for an ultra rare. There's going to be some crazy speculation going on in this bit of La Boca. Zooming out once again, and this is another street which you can see from quite a ways out. It is this blue street that goes through Recoletta and Retiro. If you zoom in, you'll find that it's called the Avenida Del Liberado. If we just zoom in, there it is. Oh wait, hang on. Maybe it changes its name a bit further up. It's actually right next to the train station as well, so people just getting off the train are going to be in the best spots to get this stuff, which is pretty crazy actually. But yeah, it's one of the most important streets in the city, and certainly one of the most coveted addresses to actually live in. It's home to the Museum of Fine Arts, the Buenos Aires Japanese Gardens, the Palermo Hippodrome, the National Library, and overall just some of the most expensive housing in the whole city. So Avenida Del Liberado, Upland certainly have made a few of these kind of blue coloured streets collections in the past, and I think this one has a really strong contender. The next one, if you zoom out and you look at the border between Recoletta and Retiro, just towards the south of those two neighbourhoods, if you zoom in where my cursor is here, you're going to come across the street Avenida Alvia. There it is right there. And this is described as the most elegant avenue in the city. It's home to a number of aristocratic properties, including a number of embassies and a lot of high-end hotels. If you look this street up, you'll see that it is very French-inspired in its architecture. Upland certainly love to have any interesting areas of architecture. They're strong contenders for collections, and you can see all of these marked properties along here, which I think is another strong indication that you might be onto something quite special there. So yeah, absolutely the Avenida Alvia, or as they seem to call it in Upland, the Marcello de Alvia, for whatever reason. Yeah, that is certainly a strong contender for a street collection. And actually just one street above that, which makes me think that one or the other of these could be a collection, is the Avenida Santa Fe. This is actually known locally as the Avenida Lionel Messi, after the footballer, which is obviously very topical given the recent FIFA partnership, so make of that what you will. Could that increase its chances of being a collection? It is considered one of the main shopping areas of the city, and its range of boutiques have led it to be dubbed the Avenue of Fashion as well. So lots of marked properties along here. It's got galleries, it's got markets, it's got it all. So really between the Alvia Street and Santa Fe, I'd say Santa Fe might just top it in terms of its iconic level. So maybe if you had to pick between the two, I'd go for that, but certainly either of those could be a strong contender for a collection. And really that's about it from me in terms of the areas that have already been revealed. As I said, these areas sort of just south of Retiro have a bunch of other iconic streets. You've got Laval Street, Avenida de Mayo, Avenida Corrientes, but they're all sort of down here, so not available to mint tomorrow, unfortunately. But when the next round of releases comes out for Buenos Aires, I'll be sure to give the areas a quick look and tell you if anything I think looks interesting there. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel in preparation for that. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it was useful. I want to give a shout out to my executive and director level channel members: Bad Frog, Monopoly Mike, Matsuda R, HH Toy Boy, Tushar Singh, and Rasmus Bro. Everybody have a fantastic city release. Best of luck for tomorrow, and I will see you in the next episode.